let's wait for 1 more minute, okay? Give people some time to join in. Usually this is a rush time because many people may have some like a technical problem when they join the meeting. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. Okay, probably let's just get started. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today's Social Innovation Summer Training Workshop. This is the third workshop, seventh workshop for the whole section, and also will be the last one. So this is a long summer for many people. You know, we always here at Tuesday, like light, noon or evening, to join the whole session. And thank you all for joining the session. Even many of them may not join today's session, but who have joined all past session, we'll still give them great thanks. Today we'll talk about crowdfunding for social innovation and health research. We have two presenters today. The first presenter will be Dr. Ogechukwu Aribodo. She is an accomplished lecturer, researcher, and public health expert from Nigeria. She is a faculty member of the Lamidi Azikiwe University, and her research interest is mainly focusing on infectious disease and poverty. This is also focusing on TDR Global, also for our CHI. And she is definitely from the CHI Nigeria hub. The second presenter will be Dr. Rina Tan. She is from our UNC project China. She's a postdoc in here. And he is also a visiting scholar, visiting researcher fellow at the National University of Singapore and the National Center for Infectious Disease in Singapore. His research interests including the community engagement, STI, as well as substance use. He's also from CHI China Hub. Welcome for our two presenters, and thank you for all for joining the session. At the end of the session, I'll give us some like we will give some remindings regarding the final survey, also regarding the future arrangements. Thank you very much. Rina and yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Professor Tang, very much for the introduction. So I just want to say welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today, Dr. Ogechukwu and myself will be presenting a little bit on crowdfunding, especially for social innovation and health research. We're very lucky and privileged to have also Mr. Umar, who is here to share more about his experience, running a successful crowdfunding campaign. So without further ado, let me just pass the time over to Dr. Ogechukwu, who will kick off our presentation for today.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Rea. Thank you, I'm happy to be here. Greetings, everyone. Today is expected that at the end of this lecture, every participant should be able to understand why crowdfunding for any health research is important and how it actually works. And then every researcher should be able to plan confidently and carry out successful crowdfunding campaigns for any social innovation in health research. And in so doing, create a strong network for future collaboration that will stand the test of time as a good researcher. So these are the learning outcomes expected of each and every participant. Please do well to follow us through this slide. Thank you for being on board. Yeah, the big question. What is crowdfunding for health research? Crowdfunding, crowdfunding, crowdfunding. It simply has to do with the process of engaging large groups of people to make monetary and non-monetary contributions to a health research project. I know most of you will wonder why it is put this way, because whenever you hear about funding, what crosses your mind is just monetary contribution. No. For a researcher, the crowdfunding can be non-monetary contribution. And as we go on to present our case study, you will see why in the definition, crowdfunding was defined as a process that engaged large group of people who make monetary and non-monetary contribution. And as a good researcher, this is important because every good research is actually anchored on having high impact. Therefore, if actually you must carry out any research successfully or crowdfunding successfully, you need to know that it is a multi-stage process. And this can only be effective through enhanced public engagement. Good. Fast fingers on this, please. Kindly scan the barcode if you can. Then if you can't, type www.menti.com and try to answer, use the code there and answer the first question. Please endeavor to participate. It is very important that you give us this feedback.
And we've also put the link in the chat box. So please feel free to log on through that link and type in your answer. Now, looking forward to your participation. Dr. Ogachukwu, what do you think about some of the responses so far around public engagement and research?
Yeah, I think our audience seem to have an idea about what we're about to talk about public engagement. But let's just hold on and see, because this is also a way of us improving on what we have also. So let us see what they have to say about it. So far, so good, 27 responses. No, we need to do better than that. Please type scan so that we can proceed. Thank you. Remember, this is the last one.
Okay, 31 and counting, we're waiting for more responses and more participation from everyone.
Yeah. Remember, it's anonymous. Nobody gets to know who sent what. We are just after getting your feedback. Thank you. Keep it coming. Great ideas. Keep it coming. Something is still missing in the answer supplied. Keep it coming. Keep rolling. We have 2 more minutes. 39 respondents in a hall of 178. No, 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 that's not right. Please try mentimeter.com and then put in the answers. Thank you. $39. Ooh, we'll round it up to 40. Please send the link once again. Some people just join. Welcome, Comfort.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you feel it's more convenient, you can also put your answer in the chat box. But
Exactly.
yeah, I think, yeah. Okay, we're up to 40.
Yeah. So I think we may have to move over so that 41. Okay, let's wait to feel. Let's see if we can have 1 more minute, please. 42. Okay, 43. $44. Now we're almost there. 45, yeah. 47, yeah. 43 more to go.
We've got 2 in the chat over here.
Okay, so 1 more person to bail us out. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for your wonderful responses. Yeah. Thank you, Reina.
So next question. Oh, back to your slides.
No, next question. What is the purpose of public engagement? Why do you think it's important? Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Comment.
There are a few in the chat box. I think there are 2.
Thank you. See the answers coming in.
Yeah. Beautiful responses. Beautiful, beautiful responses. Thank you. Keep coming. Yeah, I'm looking for a word.
We've got some in the chat box as well.
Okay. $40. We have our 2 minutes more. Wow, Rena, they have quite a good knowledge about what the purpose of public engagement seem to be.
Yeah.
But I'm still looking for a particular word. It's still missing there. Please keep it coming. Try. Dr. Rena, in the chat box, you have up to 8 there?
Yeah, we've got
Oh,
1, 2,
good.
3, 4, 5, 6, I think. There you go.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for your wonderful contribution and answers to these 2 questions. Now to my slides. Thank you. All right, so what actually is public engagement? You as a researcher, you want to have a research that is anchored on a sound research question. So you set out to solve a problem. And if you must solve a problem correctly, you have to engage the public you are going to address. Therefore, you must take some steps to make sure that you get best results. So as a researcher, you have to be passionate about what you want to do and also act like a creator because you want to solve a problem. Remember that every good research anchors on a sound research question. And this must follow a systematic, appropriate research methodology. If you look at that picture we have here, you will see the researcher trying to speak to the public. The public here is the end user, the backers, and the research participants. The major people here that will play a role is when you as a researcher understand the 7 C's of communication. You see, as a researcher, you need to acquire some skills that will help you to actually engage in effective public engagement. Communication can only be effective if it is a 2-way communication process. And it entails you learning and then the public also learning, and it will yield mutual benefit. That was the word I was looking for. I didn't see anybody write it for me. So when there's an effective public engagement, it will build trust and then it will lead to mutual benefit. Therefore, for communication to be effective, you have to communicate your language has to be such that it has to be clear, concise, concrete. That means your communication has to be solid and specific, correct, And then you should keep in mind the type of audience you want to address. Having said this, you can see that public engagement is dynamic. And if you want to start, first of all, the first step to take as a researcher before you go to engage your public is to create a detailed plan. If you create a detailed plan, you need to identify who your audience is. Who really are your audience? What do you want to get out of this audience? How do you engage them? The end users, who are your beneficiaries? That is, people that are affected by the problem you aim to solve. We'll be able to describe the impact of the problem for you, so that as a researcher, your research can have good research questions. And when you find out, if you engage the end users very well, it will help you to understand the problem that you're about to solve very well, and provide opportunities that will make this audience for them to lead in your research and help you to uptake of your research findings will be very easy. In other words, it will foster the relationship you have. So effective communication skills is very, very important, even in our day-to-day life. I cannot, as a mother, my daughter will ask for bread and I'll give my daughter stone. If I not hear what my daughter said and I mistakenly give her stone, she blindfoldedly will eat the stone without knowing what I gave her. I will end up going to hospital with her. But if I listened very well and I was open-minded and I understood what she was trying to convey to me, it will make it easier for me to give her the bread, and she'll be satisfied, and I'll be seen as a good mother and will save time not going to hospital. Therefore, a robust public engagement is a prerequisite to crowdfunding. Next slide. These are the steps we need to take to have an effective public engagement. When, as a researcher, you have already defined what you want to do by identifying a health problem, you have a compelling research ideas you want to do. As you are carefully planning what you want to carry out, remember that you have to get ethical approval. Please co-create your research materials with your end users. Remember again, the end users are the beneficiaries. If you co-create your research materials with them, it will help you build trust with these potential community supporters. And when you do so too, it will also help you to develop, your research will become more accountable, and then anything you are suggesting will be more sustainable. Therefore, prior to your study, the creator should work with the end users and local communities to frame the research and clarify the objectives. When you have done that, how you can effectively do that is by developing diverse messages appropriate for every public. Remember, I started by telling you, you need to identify who your audience is. That is very important. The way you address a market woman who did not go through university is not the same way you will speak to someone that is in another place. So you must always take into consideration the contextual differences. As much as possible, please, communication, your method of communication should always be consistent, clear, concise, and please remember to factor in local languages. If you are communicating to someone that cannot understand English, please translate your messages in a simple way that they can understand. As we go on, Dr. Rena will tell you more about this, how it helps to also help you in crowdfunding. Then for the key stakeholders, you have to get them engaged so that they can also help to push your goal and make sure you achieve your goal. Remember, effective public engagement will give you the best result you want. Next slide. So why are you crowdfunding? COVID actually threw it into our face that the world all have challenges and need to solve it. For us in low and medium income countries, we are often disadvantaged when we apply for research grants. And you agree with me that this is basically because of lack of administrative support in most of the institutions, or maybe we lack the eligibility policies that they need. In other words, if we apply, it puts us in a disadvantaged position. Crowdfunding will help us to increase our research accountability, because the community members will key into what you are about to do. Once you carry out effective public engagement, you will be able to mobilize. Not only that, local resources will follow, and you open room for other researchers to collaborate with you. And local funding mechanisms will help to solve the problem of always depending on the traditional funders. We need to think out of the box and solve our problems. That is why this study came on board, and then we are now talking about crowdfunding. Let us think of how to strengthen our locally financed, our research in such a way that it can be locally financed and sustained. Thank you. Next one. So what are the people involved in crowdfunding for health research? As a researcher, you are the creator. You need supporters. Who are your funders? They are the envisaged people you want to fund your research, and then the beneficiaries who will co-create your materials with you, and you are going to also apply your research findings on. So therefore, if you are going to work effectively with them, you need to get an organizer independent of yourself that will bridge the gap between you and your supporters. The reason is that most times when you engage the public and you do all the necessary things for them, if you don't have an independent organizer, for instance, if you are in the institution as a researcher, your university should be able to know what you are doing and then stand in for you and give you some basics, like providing certain things that are now you see that word come up again, non-monetary contribution. If your university, for example, provides the hall where you will use for your workshop as your organizer, it will help you save costs of what you are supposed to spend. Now, they are your internal organizers. You can also decide to have external ones by using online organizers to help you. The essence of using organizers, like I said, is to build trust and credibility. Because most times people prefer, especially in our climate, people prefer to deal with institutions or organizations that they know that are trusted than to give funds to individuals. So as a researcher, to make sure that you get the type of support you want, you need to work with an organizer while planning your crowdfunding. Next slide. So I'll hand over the baton now to Dr. Reina, and as we go on, I will speak more about crowdfunding and public engagement. Thank you. Reina, please tell us how crowdfunding works.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogachukwu. So, after hearing about, why crowdfunding is important, and hearing about public engagement, I bet many of you might be having this question: does crowdfunding really work? And thankfully, we've got some colleagues who have gathered some scientific evidence around crowdfunding. So, Dr. Pokiri and some other scholars have done a scoping review and a global qualitative synthesis on crowdfunding or research around crowdfunding. And what they found through this systematic search and thematic synthesis of the findings were 9 studies. 7 of them were in high-income countries, 2 were from globally acquired data, and there was a mix of qualitative and mixed methods. And I think the findings are really important. So not just that crowdfunding does work, but also there are certain correlates of a successful crowdfunding campaign. And these correlates include, for example, having lower funding targets, scientific and researcher endorsements. So having that scientific backing, someone saying that this research is robust, is important to build trust with your backers. Recognition and rewards to backers also are important to maintain that rapport with these backers. So for example, being able to recognize contributions through like an online message board, or even giving certificates or trophies, to not just recognize their contributions to this particular campaign, but also crowdfunding really looks particular campaign? How can you build networks beyond this pilot study, for example? Community engagement is really important. I won't belabor the point because Dr. Ogechukwu has also talked about how public engagement is so important. And, scientific crowdfunding platforms being used also help to, provide a strong structure to some of the processes involved in crowdfunding. There are some potential risks and limitations identified by this synthesis and review. So, for example, because crowdfunding does not have the typical structure of like a grant application, so maybe there's some ethical risks involved. For example, there's a lack of a standardized peer review that you normally have in the grant. The public might actually think that crowdfunding research may be, of low value, ethically unsound, not methodologically rigorous. These are some concerns that people may have. And also, there's a kind of a perception maybe that you are very unable to monitor research funding allocation after your campaign. Maybe you have a grant application, for example, you would have to report how you have spent your budget, and an institution might be helping you manage that. But these are some things that can be overcome in the community. These are some things that, through innovative approaches you can mitigate. For example, you can use expert reviewers, have community partners involved, and research mentors to really conduct some processes such as internal peer review. While you might not have some kind of external grant panel, you can also set up your own internal peer review board to ensure that your crowdfunding campaign is of high quality. So also some ethical review committees, it might differ from setting to setting, but some of them will require a review of the crowdfunding platforms that you are using for your crowdfunding research, because they want to know whether the method of getting funds for this particular study, the nature of it might be important for ethics. Finally, you also would have mentorship and partnerships with CBOs or community-based organizations that can help with marketing and fundraising. So this is actually extracted from the WHO TDR Practical Guide on Crowdfunding for Health and Health Research. And you will see that, public engagement is not just something that you do pre-campaign. It's not like I prepare for crowdfunding, I'm going to engage the public, I'm going to make sure everyone knows about my campaign, and I'm stopping there. That's not it. I think public engagement really carries throughout all aspects of your crowdfunding campaign, from the pre-campaign phase, during campaign, and post-campaign. And I think this is what you will find in some of the readings that we've sent out, along with the global synthesis earlier that I shared. So this is another quick assessment. We'll run through this quickly so that we've got some time for Q&A later. So now let me just post the link to assessment number 2 in the chat. You will find it over there. If you go to menti.com, you can also type in this code that I'm typing in right now. And you will find multiple choice question in there. So thank you so much, Dr. Ogechukwu. So the results are hidden, so I'm just going to show the question here. If you want to answer in the chat box, you can do so. So which of these following strategies for effective public engagement is the first step to take by a creator? I think Dr. Ogechukwu covered this earlier. If you remember that little graphic with the different circles and 4 different ends. Which one do you think is something that you would start with? I see there are 12 people here, but I'll just wait like a couple of more seconds just to get more people's responses in. So which do you think? The first one would be defining a community-based network with shared interests. 2, co-creating research materials. 3, developing diverse messages appropriate for the public. Or 4, key stakeholders engagement. So I think in the interest of time, we are past 20. Let me just show what people have discussed. So we have most people defining a community-based network with shared interests. Dr. Ogechukwu, what do you think? Is that correct?
Defining with shared interests, that's not the first step to take. What do you think is the first step to take?
So I see different responses.
Some people are still contributing. They're still responding right now.
No, I think well, we've got, in the interest of time, like I will try and move forward to the next question. So I just want to highlight that, I would say that co-creating is important, because when you think about your the community-based networks with shared interests, basically when you talk about shared interests, I think you are already thinking about the topic at hand. And maybe when you're thinking about a topic, what needs to happen before that would be, making sure that you co-create your research materials, in terms of identifying what your topic is, what is important to different communities. So, we would actually start from, co-creating research materials, or, even you can even argue that part of it is also stakeholders engagement, because who do you co-create with, right? You co-create with, some of these stakeholders. So I can see that some of you got it correct. I think for everyone else, that's something that we hope you can take away.
Yes.
So now moving on to the next question. Now you can change the slide on your end. So very quick one. Which of the following stages in crowdfunding campaigns do not require public engagement? So this is an easy one. I hope everything that we have said so far around public engagement will help you answer this question correctly. So is it, for those who are responding on chat, is it 1, pre-campaign, 2, during the campaign, 3, after the campaign, or 4, none of the above? Because which of the following stages do not require public engagement? So I see we've got around like 20 responses or so.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I think it is the reason why we don't show the answers ahead, because everyone will start doing the same answer. But I can see that a lot of you are getting it right.
Because yes.
If you remember that graphic from the WHO TDR practical guide, basically all these stages need public engagement. And
exactly.
really important. Yes, and right now I will go through the rest of my slides real quick. Thank you so much for participating. I think you all have been a really great audience. So I'll quickly go through these slides because I really want you to hear from Mr. Umar, who has the lived experience of crowdfunding. But these are some of the stages in crowdfunding and some of the steps that you would take to make sure that you have a successful crowdfunding campaign. So before your campaign, you would define your study. What is your research about, co-creating your project, talking to stakeholders. These are some things that we've pointed out already. After that, identify your audience. And then after that, you plan and design a campaign strategy. The reason why I'm not going through this in detail is because Dr. Ogachukwu already covered quite a lot of this in the initial stages of pre-campaign. But I want you to draw your attention to the planning and designing a campaign strategy, because that is really important. There are many different details there that you would have to consider. So to do so, this infographic is actually adapted or borrowed from experiment.com. Experiment.com is one of those organizers that or online scientific crowdfunding platforms that can help you run your crowdfunding campaign. And you will see that these are some of the suggested things to get prepared in terms of before you start launching your campaign. You will need a very snappy, snazzy title, something that is really attention grabbing. You would also need to set a goal and some timing. So the goal would be in terms of how much you think you would need in terms of your budget, and timing would be, how long would your campaign be for? You would want something that is sort of a sweet spot. Most campaigns run for about 45 days. You don't want something which is a year, because people won't feel motivated to donate or to back your campaign if it's that long. You don't want something too short that you cannot reach your campaign goal. They also suggest that you have a video, because not just text, a video that connects me and you. For example, right now in this Zoom room, hearing us talk, hearing us connect, this is something where you can build trust and rapport with your audience. Next, you go into why this project is important, the research description. And you start to notice that this looks like a grant application, right? Like all the details of a typical grant application, but instead of getting, rationalizing your research to a group of funders, in let's say a particular department or government institute, the people that you're getting funding from is the people, the communities. And therefore, all these things around project budget, project timeline are also equally important. Some of these are different organizers that you see, maybe experiment.com, Thunder Fund. Some of these are specifically for scientific programs. Some of them are not. They are mixed. And some of them are from institutional organizers too. These are some pros and cons of these online versus offline organizers. I would just summarize it really quickly because you can view these slides later on. But what I would say is that for online, sometimes they're a little bit more expensive, and they're actually accessible because you can share the links around. You can use social media to promote, but it's difficult to integrate offline methods of getting public engagement as well as funding. However, if you do stuff that's associated with your universities, for example, I think Dr. Ogachukwu mentioned that you can actually get some institutions and universities to help you organize some of your crowdfunding campaigns. These also are really useful, especially in settings where maybe there's no digital or strong digital infrastructure, or maybe even like a credit card infrastructure to support some of these funding mechanisms. I will actually leave Mr. Umar to talk a little bit more about his experience around this. So during the campaign, what can you do? As you launch the campaign, get your ethics finalized, you will start to keep track of your analytics, not just your analytics around your campaign, but you also keep track about the funding progress, and you will continue to communicate all your funding progress to all your backers and regularly connect with the public. One thing to note is make sure that you avoid launching or ending your campaign during a holiday season, because that's when your efforts won't be as effective. I would reckon that a lot of you would know different ways of engaging your own communities. So some of these include social media engagement. There's some people who might not show up at offline events, and social media engagement would be great. Using infographics. Infographics are now very commonly used, especially in science communication. There's less cognitive load than looking at a whole page of text, and they are effectively used in a lot of scientific journals these days, along with, let's say, video abstracts. There are open access resources that you can use for generating some of these infographics. Some of them are paid as well. Some of them might be institutionally provided. But these all translate into generating eye-catching audio-visual material. Offline engagement strategies are also important, because while online reaches a certain demographic, it is not depending on your community, depending on your context, it is not the only way. And sometimes offline strategies are more important. They help you build trust, and they help you ensure that you reach a particular demographic that's not available online. So let me hand the time back to Dr. Ogachukwu, who will tell you a little bit more about the final bits of your post-campaign.
Thank you so much, Rena. Thank you. Dear participants, when you are wrapping up your campaign, remember that you need to foster relationships. Therefore, you must ensure that you deliver on your commitments. Don't forget that a good researcher has to be honest, and you have to be seen to be accountable. So remember to deliver on your commitments. Reward your backers. Try as much as possible to write them a thank you letter. Show gratitude for what they have done. Appreciate them for the various roles they played. This will help you nurture local relationships. And then you will notice while you are carrying out your campaign that there are many researchers that will indicate interest in what you have done, and even a good end user relationship that have been established can lead to new opportunities. So while harnessing all this, always keep it brief, keep it concise and consistent. Foster relationship. It should be your watchword. Next slide. So this is the last assessment for us. Then we go over to our case study. Yeah. So please type again. Meanwhile, if you still have questions for us, please feel free to type it in while we take the case studies. We'll respond to each and every one of the questions you have. Okay, this is just to test what you have learned. Crowdfunding pre-campaign activities involve the following. What do you think it involves? If you are typing on the chat box, number 1 is defining the scope of the study. 2, identifying the campaign audience. 3, budget development and obtaining ethical approval. 4, refining the campaign plan. 5, all of the above. Then 6, A, B, and C only. Wow, thank you so much. This is quick. So Rena, maybe you can just show the results. I think we have about, okay. So Dr. Rena, what do you have to say about this?
Okay,
show the results, they all responded.
Yeah, no, I think thank you everyone for responding.
Yeah.
So all of the above. What's the difference between all of the above? I see the two most common answers, all the above and ABC only. So the one that is contentious is D, right? Refining the campaign plan. So
Yes.
refining the campaign plan, I guess, is something that you only do after you launch because
Yes.
you refine it. So
Yes.
I think pre-campaign would involve A, B, and C. So 9 of you are correct.
Correct.
Great. Okay, now you can change your slide, and this is the last assessment question for this evening. Why are offline engagement strategies important for crowdfunding? So A, you can reach groups that may not be reachable through online methods. B, they are always less time consuming than online strategies. And C, you can build trust and rapport with people face to face. So is it all of the above, one of them, or A and C? Okay, so now that about half have participated, let's see the answers. Okay, amazing. This shows that all of you are listening well and have you've taken this part into consideration, right? Because
Yes.
you know, offline engagement strategies, are they always less time consuming? Not quite. It depends on the nature of your activity, but definitely, you know, you can reach groups that you may not reach through online methods, and you can build trust and rapport with people face to face.
Exactly. Great
All
thing
right.
we have here. Okay, and that brings us to available online. Thank you for your responses. That brings us to the online document that you can access. We have a book that's already developed and is online that you can access. Public Engagement and Crowdfunding in Health Research, a practical guide. So I advise every participant to please have this handbook handy and read it. It will guide you. You also see many case studies inside it. Also read about the characteristics of a good researcher. It will help you be good. So on this note, we wrap up this, but don't forget that you can always reach out to us, and these materials will be shared for you in the site so that you can have access to our PowerPoints. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Ogachukwu. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mahmoud Ali Umar, who will be sharing a little bit with us about his successful project in terms of crowdfunding. Mr. Umar, please feel free to mute yourself and let me know when I can switch slides.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rena and Dr. Ogachukwu. Hello, everyone, and it's really a pleasure to have me. I'm going to share my experience on crowdfunding, which we conducted sometimes last year, 2021, in order to fund Schistosomiasis interventions project in Kano State, Nigeria. So Torena will help me share my slides as I go through. So crowdfunding has already been taken care of. It's really a process that involves two parts. That's the monetary donation, where the fund is raised, and then the non-monetary support, which involves political, moral, as well as technical support from the public. So for one to succeed in crowdfunding, there are key issues to consider. First is identification of the health problem. A researcher needs to identify what is a health problem that is bedeviling the society, that is bedeviling the community. So there are several elements, several diseases that affect the public, but in our own case, we consider a neglected tropical disease, in particular schistosomiasis. And this disease is actually bedeviling poor rural communities, especially in Kano State, because Kano State is endowed with many man-made water bodies. So, and this disease is there in almost every local government. So the identification of this, coupled with the development of research ideas, enable us to develop a proposal. In fact, we considered taking the aspect of implementation research, where there is normally each year praziquantel drug, which is the mainstay for the treatment of schistosomiasis, is being distributed to public, to the school children, and such. That is actually the only means of controlling the disease. But then we realized that a single intervention approach will not solve the problem. So we developed ideas on how to incorporate additional strategies, bringing additional interventions like the preventive intervention, coupled with the control intervention using praziquantel. So we have these ideas developed, and then we carefully planned with the help of the mentors from the TIDRA Global and the multidisciplinary research team. The plan for the campaign was developed. So next is the public engagement. This is a hot cake, because without public engagement, without effective public engagement, there will be no success in crowdfunding. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So already doctors have talked about the different stages of crowdfunding. In our own case, the pre-campaign stage involves meeting the mentors and local stakeholders. This is very essential because let me say that this idea came as a result of a kind of a contest, which resulted in 5 of us being selected from the low and middle income countries, where we went to Geneva for a capacity building workshop on crowdfunding as well as public engagement. So we have been having a lot of meetings, series of meetings, monthly meetings with the mentors, where they help in refining, in fine-tuning the proposal, and also setting the way for successful crowdfunding. Also, local stakeholders are also important in this respect, because without getting moral support, there will be no success in the crowdfunding exercise. So as you can see, we have different stakeholders that we visited. We made advocacies to the village heads, traditional leaders, religious leaders, all sectors of public. In fact, we visited them, we tell them about the project so that at the end we get their own support. And then there's need for building a strong team. Identification of the online crowdfunding platform is one of the key issues in the pre-campaign preparation. We identified experiment.com, which is actually working based on 8%. The crowdfunding. The experiment.com is the one that we identified, and we submitted our proposal after vetting, after all the processes for acceptance. We now launch the campaign. Now, before the launch of the campaign, we identified potential backers. The potential backers already, we made a list of emails of the potential backers, so that just prior to the launch, we now send them that the launch is, the crowdfunding exercise is about to begin. Then we also involve different means of communicating to the public. We had radio programs, series of radio programs, and we also made some lectures, and also engage the public generally, because without touching either all sectors of the public, there will be no success. Next slide. Meeting the stakeholders. This is still part of the pre-campaign stage of the crowdfunding. We paid a visit to the Kano State Entities Office, and we told them our intention. This is the research that we want to conduct, and we also sought their support. And the research is ongoing, and the Entities Office participated fully, which is an indication of their endorsement of the project. Next stage. So during the campaign, we emphasize on community mobilization because raising awareness is key to the successful crowdfunding. Next slide. So we still use different means of communicating to the public using social media campaigns, social media outlets, electronic media, as well as public lectures. We developed a poster summarizing or giving a sort of information about the disease and the transmission dynamics of the disease, and how it can be, how the fund can be utilized for the intervention to be conducted. Next slide. So during the next slide, next. So during the campaign, at the end of the campaign, we are able to raise a fund to in fact, which exceeded our target. We got 117%, and this has indicated how, public, are interested to some extent. But I will take us to this figure one. As you can see, we have different sectors of the public community, that's philanthropists, officers. All these are and to dismay, I say that only 3 categories of individuals contributors financially to the crowdfunding. Even though the other, the other categories do contribute more to some extent, technically. Next stage. Next stage. Slide. So during the campaign, we have in-person and online donations. But from this figure, we can see the in-person donation was significantly higher. The online is just a meager amount. Next slide. Next slide. So at the end of the campaign, the TDR tweeted, join in the celebration of this successful crowdfunding campaign, being that it's a pilot experiment. Next slide. So after the, at the end of the campaign, there's a need to actually recognize the backers. So we organized an event in my institution, Kano University of Science and Technology, and appreciated the backers by giving them certificates. Just foreign backers, we email the certificate to them. Then we now sat down and revised plan, because at that moment we were planning to go to the field. So next slide. Next slide. This is still part of the gathering we had in Udil during the, appreciating the back support. Next slide. About the project. This is very significant also because we use this to enlighten the public, because crowdfunding is another way of, raising awareness about a particular disease. The work is on schistosomiasis, and this is actually a preventable and treatable neglected tropical disease, and is endemic in sub-Saharan Africa. So, like I said earlier, we identify some implementation problems, like the consequential early treatment, where only school children are targeted, and those that are in the institutions of government, like the primary schools and junior secondary schools. And then as such, we realize that there is a kind of low coverage because there are other sectors of the public that are not considered, like the Almajiri that go to the non-conventional schools. These are religious schools, the Islamic schools. So this majority of these, individuals, they are school children, they are school-age children, and they do not go to the conventional primary schools. But they are involved in all aspects, all sorts of water contact activity. So these have been, they have not been part of the treatment. Also, the low coverage is still related to this in the sense that you have occupational subgroups in the society, in the community that are also not involved, etc., etc. Next slide. So we now devise our implementation strategies in order to address the problem. We took baseline data, the qualitative and the quantitative data, as well as developing the strategies for control and preventive interventions. For control intervention, we used project control as a mainstay for the, for the treatment, and we now adopted direct observed therapy as well as feed and treat strategy. As you can see in the picture, we provided food with chicken and egg so that the individuals that are to get treatment will now be fed the food and then later they receive the drug. So that's the project is ongoing currently. And the other aspect is preventive interventions, which immediately after the control intervention, it follows. And this involves health education to raise awareness about the disease, also personal provision of personal protective product, and the building of sanitary facilities around the water bodies or the water contact sites within the communities. Next slide. So in conclusion, public engagement is really a prerequisite, without which there will be no success in crowdfunding. One has to use public engagement to actually build a trust, to build relationship, even beyond crowdfunding, beyond the project. And based on the findings, offline crowdfunding is a better alternative with effective mobilization of the community, and also reduce burden of urogenital schistosomiasis, will improve the vulnerable, will improve the life of the vulnerable population. Next slide. So these are the references, most of them, some of which have been cited but by Dr. Ogechukwu and Dr. Reina. Next slide. So we acknowledge the contributions of these people, the TIRA Global Mentors, as well as the research team of Kano Schistosomiasis Interventions Project, and the WHO, the TDR, as well as the Institution of Learning, Kano University of Science and Technology, the academic staff, as well as the management that have contributed a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Umar. And we also, I guess, on Dr. Ogechukwu and my end, we also want to thank, the people who have made this possible as well, from CI Nigeria and CI China.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think just for those who really need to leave, just really quick update that we have the evaluation link that the SESH Global LLC account has posted. Just note that you have to watch or have attended at least 5 sessions. It can be live, or the recordings are all on the website as well. So when you fill out the evaluation survey and you note that you have already watched or attended 5 sessions, you will get a participation certificate. So this is something important for those who want a certificate of completion. So now maybe we can just move on. We can take like just 1 or 2 questions before we wrap up, and for those who want to stay on after that to talk more to us about crowdfunding and talk to Mr. Umar, I think we can stay back to answer questions. So Dr. Ogechukwu, I think you have one question that you wanted to check in with Mr. Umar, was that right?
Yes. So, Mr. Umar, thank you so much for your presentation. Actually, someone wanted to find out what was the major challenge you faced and how were you able to overcome it?
Yeah, thank you very much. And the major challenge is lack of the positive response in terms of the finance from the elite, because these are the people that we feel they will understand better about the project but somehow they will end up praying. That one is still acceptable because it's just like a moral support, spiritual support. But we know that the fund is the primary, at that stage. We need to have the fund for work to be executed. So this was the major challenge because within the 45 days of the campaign, it was just few days to the end of the campaign that we were able to raise more than 70% of the money. So we really suffered because we realized it's, at the end it was really Herculean. We suffered a lot. We almost gave up, but we insisted because this, exercise requires perseverance, requires determination.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. But I think with this experience, and now that we have been having radio programs, even after the crowdfunding, we went to the radio station, we thank the backers, and we explain more about the project. And also during the NTDs, World NTDs Day, we also had a radio program again, still, raising more awareness about the disease, transmission dynamics, the risk factors, all these things, and the havoc the disease causes. So we believe that with this, when next we plan for our crowdfunding, there will be more turnout.
Wow, thank you so much. This was very insightful. Dr. Rena, what do you have to say about it?
I think you're sharing your experience on crowdfunding in low resource setting, I think has been very insightful. And maybe just one last question to round it out before we hand it over back to Prof. Tang would be, because you also mentioned there are monetary and non-monetary contributions. So Jody has this question: does that mean in terms of non-monetary, you could also be sort of, in your experience, maybe, did you manage to get more help in this project because people were interested, maybe stakeholders or community were interested to help additionally? Was that your experience?
Yeah, maybe it's like I didn't get the question well.
Oh, so in terms of non-monetary contributions,
right.
What were you able to get, and would you count extra manpower as part of that as well?
Well, maybe that one I would say we have cooperation of the entities office.
Yes.
They supported us by giving advice, and they even accompanied us to the field during the administration of the drug, which happened just 2 days back. They were there, and there were even 2 NGOs that developed interest about the project. They also participated in the in the dispensation of the drugs. So there we have Chai and Hans. They are impressed by the way the project is being handled. So I think if really one continue to pursue a right track, one moment, one day, there may be a helping hand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Umar. So in the interest of time, we'll stay on after this, but let me hand the time over to Professor Tang to help us close this session and our workshop series.
Okay. First of all, thanks to all the speakers for their fantastic presentations in the past 7 sessions. Without your contribution, we cannot have such a great workshop in the summer. Appreciate for all the contributions. We also would like to thank for all the audience. We have around 700 registered audience that attending different sessions in the summer. Today we also have like more than 200 audience in here. This is a great thing. We have such a large number of audience. For the future, I think we need to keep you posted. And I was thinking whether we should have a CHI fellow network, and we can potentially create a network for the future. We can send the link to everyone to have them to be registered. In this way, for future events, we can direct send the link to you, and you have the priority to attend the future sessions, and we can share all the updates with you later on regarding the progress of the CHI programs. I'm going to propose this to the CHI secretaries in the next meeting. I think this would be a great idea to keep you in the loop. And also, this is, this year's session, we focus on social innovation. We are still planning for the next year, but we'll keep you posted. In each summer, I think we'll have similar sessions, one in each week for 7 to 8 weeks, one lasts for 1 hour. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to learn social innovation, to engage in social innovation, and in the future, implement social innovation in our research. So yeah, I would like to say this is a great opportunity, and this is really a fantastic workshop. We have a very successful summer. Thank you all. That's the end of our last workshop. That's also the end of our summer workshop. Thank you very much. Have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear participants. Without you, we wouldn't have been here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, remember to finish the survey, okay?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do well to visit our site and then look at what we have there. For those of you that missed some parts, you can still visit the site in a week's time and check out what we presented today. It should be uploaded there for you to see too. Thank you for coming on board.
All right, thank you. Bye. We'll close the session. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.